to Cosmic Connections. I'm Starling Brighter. I'm here with Christopher Pridham, my partner in this, and with Dave Campbell. Dave is our guest today. We've had him on the podcast before, but today we're going to be talking about something special. Dave is going to be one of the speakers at the Cosmic Patterns Conference that happens in March of 2025. The date of it is March 7 through 9, 2025, and it's going to be in Orlando, Florida. So if you're able to join us, make sure that you come join us and learn more about astrology, because we have a lot of different speakers and there's going to be a convergence. That's the topic of the conference itself, so meaning that we can connect with other different systems and thoughts of astrology, which is really fascinating. So how are you doing today, Dave? Thank you for joining us.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's exciting, and it's exciting to get ready for the conference. I can't wait. I can't wait to go see everybody there and see all the different talks. There's going to be great speakers. I can't. Just everybody in one place. It's awesome. It's a good deal for that. How many speakers there are. It's awesome. It's really good.
Yes, it will be awesome, and it's very exciting because there's a lot of different people that have different ways in looking at astrology, and as you know, astrology is vast. It's like a huge ocean of thoughts, right? So I'll just share a little bit about what you are doing at the conference, and also about who you are too. So if people don't know you, Dave is the president of the AFA, which is the American Federation of Astrologers, and he holds a LPMAFA, which means Lifetime Professional Member of AFA. He also owns and operates the Astrology store in Arizona, and he's been in business for 23 years. He is a certified research medium with the Windbridge Institute and Forever Family Foundation. He authored 3 astrology books: Forensic Astrology, Asteroids Interpreted, and Amazing Asteroid Stories. So additionally, he wrote 4 major asteroid interpretations for the Sirius program, and he specializes in forecasting asteroids, rectifying, predicting the weather, and teaching astrology. So his clientele consists of many different people in the business and professional spheres, and also just regular people who seek him out regularly. So I'm really excited to talk to you. I know we've had you on before, but I'm really excited to talk to you and learn about your lecture that's going to be coming up. The lecture that you're going to be sharing with us is called Amazing Asteroids, and you're going to teach us or share with us at the lecture working with the 4 major asteroids and Chiron and more. So this is going to be a fascinating conversation. I love talking about new topics. That, I mean, I know a little bit about asteroids, but different ways in which people that are great astrologers have been doing this for a long time. How you can share that with us. So my first question to you, though, I want to ask you a question. The first question to you that I have, that I've been asking all of the people that have come, the speakers that have come to on the podcast, is what led you into astrology? What was the thing that kind of brought you into deciding that's what you want to do with your life?
Well, I started pretty young. I always had a strong interest in astrology, even in grade school. And I remember distinctly, like in, I think, 3rd grade, when they start teaching the planets in like the science subject. And I was really disappointed that the teacher didn't explain what they meant. I thought, well, maybe she'll come back tomorrow and tell us what Mercury means or Mars means. And then I was really disappointed when she never did. And so I'm like, it didn't even dawn on me till years later that how did I even know that? Why would I even think that? I mean, where did that come from? And so I was really bummed about that. And so there's some subconscious thing or past life thing in there, I'm sure. And I also was very into tarot. I liked divination. And so even in high school, I started playing with the tarot cards. And in the books, a lot of them would say, this is like an Aries person, or this is like a Venus female, and I'm like, well, what's a Venus person? What's a Libra person like? So I would get a book on astrology and tarot and kind of figure it out. And then I started getting more interested in astrology. And at the same time, like in my early 20s, I remember one year for Christmas, everything I asked for was metaphysical. Like, I want a palmistry book, I want a crystal ball. And my mom and dad are thinking, this kid's crazy, he's weird. but they did it. They went and found me a crystal ball in Utah, in Salt Lake City. I don't know where they found it. And like all these palmistry books. And I started studying palmistry, and I'm like, well, this is the Saturn line, this is the Jupiter finger, this is the, Venus area, Mars, the plane of Mars, all that kind of stuff, or the mount of Jupiter. And so I'm like back to astrology. And so I thought, let's just learn astrology. And I also, in the early, 20s, I went to a psychic in Salt Lake for with a friend, and I was going for kind of just fun, but he was going for like serious, like, am I going to get divorced? Is my wife cheating? Blah blah blah. And so as soon as his was done, I got mine, and I was like blown away. I mean, I'm like, this lady said things like that only I would know, or that were very, and a medium too, not just regular psychic. But she says, by the way, I'm a medium, after she just told me all about all these dead people. And I'm like, oh my God, I was like, and I look at my friend and he's sobbing. He's like, because he knows now that this is really real stuff. And like, oh shit, what she just said is really true. And so I had already developed a lot. I knew I was psychic from an early age, but never, it was always haphazard. Just like whenever it would happen, it happened and there was no control. And I thought, how do you get it to be controlled? And or shut it off or on. And so I took classes for like 2 years from this lady that I met in Salt Lake. And she also did tarot, she did astrology, palmistry, the whole gambit. So I was there for a long time learning everything. She was a great psychic and medium and tarot reader, palm reader, but not a good astrologer. But because she was more psychic, she would look at it and just tell me something. I'm like, well, where did you get that? And I mean, I'm like, I don't know. You could spit on the sidewalk, she could read it for you, um, and be accurate. So I'm like, so, but anyway, I learned from other astrologers as well that were very, very good at teaching, and came to years later after Portland and moving around, I came to Arizona, and there was a school of astrology, which I thought that was the coolest thing on earth. And went through their school for like twice. I went through it. Just amazing. It was the Astrological Institute, and just never stopped. And one of the teacher was very Scorpio. She is a Scorpio, but she always had mystery charts, or solve this crime, or like tell me who murdered who, or who died in this scenario. And I was like, you can do that. And so it's just learning. I did it, and I kept. And then she had contests of like an 8-week contest of who won the most, who got it right. And so I won, and thought, well, wow, don't people know that this can work? This, I mean, she even called in a district attorney. I think that's what they're called. Yeah, and he was blown away with one of the cases he gave us to kind of give us information, and we just started shouting out stuff. And he's like, "Are you guys psychic?" We're like, "No, it's from the charts." And he just was mind blown. So it really got me into studying crimes and finding missing people with astrology, and that's what led to forensic astrology. I really wanted, my goal, and that was, it really works, and it's a practical, useful way. I want people to understand it really can be used for something. And there's many, many different great purposes for it. But just self enlightenment is the number one thing, I think. Know thyself, and that's my, and to empower people is my mission. And so if you can empower by understanding what you're really here, who you really are, you get the right job, you pick the right person, you don't settle for something you're not happy with, or wrong relationships, and you understand relationships. So there's just so, it just became my whole life. And even when I wanted to start a story, because I retail is my background, so retail management, and I thought, what things do I know? I know astrology, I know tarot, psychic work, and I know how to sell it and retail. So, and I used to pray and ask for, like, how do I make money? Show me a way to make money with astrology. And I would have a dream, or it's inspired thought would come. Like, one was to write in an astrological column. So I called one of the magazines in Phoenix and asked them, and they said, "Yeah, you got it. Take it. Just do it." So I did it for like 2 years. I mean, those inspired actions, it's like the law of attraction, but asking spirit to give you a way. And I asked for what kind of a store. It was astrology store. That's what you'll name it. And I'm like, okay, that's it.
That's amazing too. And so that was something that you almost like you fell into it because it was a path that you maybe knew from a past life or whatnot, something that you were just drawn to. So I'm always fascinated by how people come to understanding astrology and then working with it. So it's really cool. So did you just put out another book? Did you put out a second book recently?
Yeah, well, semi recently, it's like, I can't remember what year, it's called Amazing Asteroid Stories. So that's why the lecture is. And one of the things with my mission on that is like asteroids, is there people still dismiss them or don't pay attention to them or think they're not really useful or just garbage. And they're too small, they're too this. I'm like, size doesn't matter, you know. Otherwise, Jupiter would be the only planet we'd be talking about, or the sun, and Pluto would have no meaning. And anybody that's out of Pluto transit knows it's pretty strong. So that's just trying to get that education out there. And there's so many different uses and ways to use them. I mean, you can use them and incorporate them in any way you use astrology, other planets. And we should start. And you don't have to use all 20,000 of them, in one sitting. You use the ones that are relevant or that make sense to whatever you're looking for, or, and you can filter out ones if you just want to see if there's something there that you don't not aware of by looking at the conjunctions. So it works like this. The asteroids add spice. They're little seasons. You can cook soup, you can make a steak, but if you don't put any pepper, salt, or A1, it's kind of just basic steak. And so why not get all the spices and the little teeny things that really do make a difference? It's not going to change your chart, and it doesn't negate any other planet, or there's no rulerships, I don't believe, at this point. I think it's just adding information, adding details. And so one of my questions to like any kind of reading, what is one of the most important things that makes that reading better? And every time they raise their hand, the audience will say details. What are asteroids? They're just details. They're specific, very specific details. Sometimes that you cannot get without them. And sometimes, you can see it in other ways in the chart, as you can see almost any other theme if you're looking for it in the chart. You know what I mean? There's 10 ways to look at what makes somebody a doctor or whatever. But there's specific asteroids that can kind of focus in and give added meaning, especially like personal name asteroids. The personal names like Campbell, Dave, David, Christopher, that kind of thing. You add those in, and it adds detail that's sometimes so shocking or profound. It's like you were really meant to be, not just with this Leo or this, whatever, which could be 1 in 12 of anybody, but this person with that name or the last name is just amazing. And it's all synchronicity, and it's like mirrors, and like I was telling you earlier about the Hurricane Helene, had asteroid Helene conjunct the sun during that time frame. So that's just, and it's not the first time that's happened with it being on the sun. Usually it's on either the moon or the rising of when it hit landfall. It's usually prominent in some way. Like uh, Milton is conjunct Jupiter right now. So Jupiter makes things bigger, and it's going to be, I mean, it's pretty powerful. Um, Hurricanes, 5. Isn't 5 the highest right now that we can go?
Yeah, it's a 5. It's the highest that they've recorded.
So I think it's really relevant. And like, for instance, was I do weather prediction too, and so they usually pre-name at the beginning of the season or before the season the alphabetical names of the hurricanes, right? So if I go and look up the asteroids first, I can kind of figure out when they'll hit. That's one way of doing it, because if it's conjunct the sun, I mean, hello, then time frame would be probably when it would asteroid Helene would hit. So that's one way of doing it. Otherwise, looking through and doing the traditional weather prediction ways, But yeah,
So
for solar,
in your book, is it that you give a lot of descriptions of the asteroids? Then is that what you're doing
yeah,
in your
I
book?
do have. There's a lot of first part of the book is like different cultures, names of asteroids.
Okay.
Um, like the Nordic. There's Egyptian asteroid names, so that you can get different cultures in as well, because a lot of people don't realize that. And I
Right.
have one on heroines and goddesses in history or
Oh
mythology.
wow.
So, and what they would mean in your chart, like transiting natal. And so I give different ways
Oh
of using
okay.
them. And and then I do like some of the mythology ones. I'll add more to like asteroid Bacchus or Dionysus, who is
Okay.
the party god of rock and roll,
Okay.
um, and drinking, having fun, and making music.
Wine.
Which
Hmm.
Okay.
wine? Yes, let's have a wine. It shows up in many rock stars' charts, conjunct their sun or
Wow.
something. And so, like, yeah,
Well,
jazz.
I like the way you kind of phrase it as the adding of spice, the adding of details, and that's exactly what asteroids can do. I mean, that's what I've seen. I mean, it's interesting because my wife's name is in my seventh house. Is
Yes.
where the asteroid for my wife is in the seventh house, and it's like, okay, what are the chances? But
Mhm.
so it's little things like that. And then I had a friend, and the asteroid Beer is conjunct his sun, and
I love
that's what
that.
he's known for.
Exactly. Even those
Yeah.
little things, the hobbies. I've seen nicknames be relevant that are just crazy. Like Skip and it was her husband's nickname, and it was conjunct her Juno, which is
Wow.
the goddess of marriage, who you're married to. So
Wow.
that you can't get more detailed than that.
Right.
That'll be awesome. That'll
Yeah.
be,
Wow.
and so a lot of the things you'll be talking about and introducing, then people will be able to get the book as well. So that'll be nice to,
Right.
have that, just kind of show how to use it, and then have the book there for the conference. That'll be really good.
Hmm.
One of the things I did want to share with everybody, I've now known Dave for, I don't know, how many years now? When did I meet you at the
At
conference?
least 4 years,
At
I
least
think.
4 years. Yeah. Now, you meet different people at conferences, but we got together and just gravitated. I will tell you, Dave is a very low key, intelligent guy. Okay. He has tremendous wisdom. I mean, a lot of knowledge. He plays off a lot of the stuff he does. He does some amazing things, and he just sort of downplays what he does. But he's incredible at astrology, as a psychic, as in blending these things, but just as a human being. I mean, his approach to things is really, it just really impressed me every time we get together at the conferences and everything. Very fascinating person to talk to. Has a lot of different stories that, just dealing from what he's been involved in. So having him at the conference, of course, was an absolute. Um, and he's someone you're going to be able to maybe hit up like in between, because he'll give his talk and his talk's going to be great. But just talking to him is even better. I will tell you that straight off. Okay,
Yeah.
that he's a really great guy to talk to. And he just has a lot of experience and everything. And when he talks about, know thyself, I mean, that to me is the main thing, because he could promote a lot of the things he does, which are great, but that doesn't seem to be as important to him as other factors. Just to be a good human, know who you are, like how these
Mhm.
things could help you. It's really, so again, someone who you can definitely model yourself after, like it's a really great guy. So I just wanted to add that in there as also to the introduction of who Dave Campbell is. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
I have a good sense of humor as well. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, hey, maybe I wasn't going to go that far. So
so yeah, but thank you. I really appreciate that. Then just being genuine, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's one thing that I was so drawn to, was that you are who you are, and you're, you just, okay, this is the way it is. And you have a really good, just how you observe life and how you can reflect on that and sort of make it very real. So again,
Yeah.
for me, a lot of the things with conferences are the people you're going to meet. And we have a lot of great people. I mean, so far, every single speaker that we've talked to, I've liked everybody. I mean, I can't wait to get to know different ones, but they're, it's a real quality people that astrology is how, it's a vessel they use, but it doesn't simply define them. They are wonderful human beings that practice astrology. They're not just astrologers, really wonderful, who really want to help. They want to help people be, to find who they are and to be who they are. That's really what the vast majority of the people we have coming want to do. And so it makes it easy to talk about, the conference and really promote that, because of just seeing the people that are coming. It's like you're not going to be disappointed. They're just such quality people with tremendous wisdom. And with Dave and the Asteroids, I mean, this is something that he does. And when I had met him the first time, I had not used Asteroids a whole lot. I would sometimes look, but he was pointing it out. So then I just started to look, and it's fascinating what you find, and you're right. It is the little details. It's little things that you wouldn't have thought of, but become very, very core, very central to understanding sort of the story of the person or what's going on right now. To understand that, it becomes very key. So,
And it shows also how synchronistic the universe is. It's like, and how much we really planned and worked on ourselves to come here. And I still believe in free will. I mean, we can change the plan, and if we don't like it, or we bite off more than we can chew, we can go, yeah, maybe next lifetime I'll try that again. But when it's the people you meet with exact names, or even the street you live on is in your fourth house. I mean, it's just, oh my gosh, you're like, this is too weird. Or the boss you had that was one of your favorites is in your 10th house, or a mentor is in the ninth. That's just, they go where they're supposed to. Even it's uncanny,
It is. It's insane. Yeah, things that just make you go,
I know.
That is one of the beauties of astrology, though. It's like it's always blowing your mind.
And even just I don't want to say regular astrology, but without asteroids, it's amazing and astonishing and shocking enough.
Yeah.
But then you add them, and you're like, oh my god, it's another level. It's like, I just always really like that stuff. And thinking about readings I had in the past from different readers of all kinds, like whether psychic, tarot, the ones that always stand out to you the most are the ones that go, they say the exact name of somebody, or a very detailed description of your job or what you like, very detailed, not just vague,
Yes.
Your mom loves you, that kind of thing, which is,
Right.
Yeah, you're right. I think you might be struggling with something. Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly. And, we got to, prove ourselves sometimes, and that's one way to do it.
Yeah. You're right.
What do you think about why the asteroids are not as common? Do you think it's just because they're smaller, or do you think there's another reason why astrologers don't tend to gravitate towards them? I mean, obviously some do, but do you?
I think it takes a little kind of proof to see them. I remember when I first was introduced to them, and I just thought, I have 10 planets I don't even know what they all mean. I mean, I'm trying to deal with that. And I had studied for a while. I just thought, I don't know if I could have another thing to learn. And then I learned there's more than 4, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 1,000. No, that's 20,000. Just overwhelming. And then, or people think that they're too small. They couldn't possibly have any gravity. I'm like, that's not how it works anyway. So it has no difference whether there's gravity or not. And that's their logic.
Yeah.
That it's too small, or that the bigger asteroids have more weight. Well, I mean, literally, but or meaning wise. And I'm like, no, it has no bearing on whether that does or not. So
Right. And also because when you think about it, then what I think Saturn is completely gas, or is it Jupiter? They're
right,
one of them has they might have little core,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
like then they weigh nothing. Like, come on,
right,
nobody's gonna say that, Uranus doesn't mean anything. Have a Uranus, opposition. Like, talk to me.
right.
It definitely is. That makes sense though. And it's interesting because so when you are using the asteroids, your lecture, are you going to be more talking about just the four major asteroids? I guess that's the name of major asteroids that we would call them, and Chiron, or are you going to be kind
I'm
of
gonna
encompassing
do a
all
little
of
bit
them?
of both. I want to cover because the second book, which is what I wrote for Sirius,
Yeah.
because this one asteroids interpreted. Oh, you got it. And
Yes.
so that's in the whole Sirius. That whole book is in Sirius 3.0 and above. And so and people love it. I just got back from a conference, and everybody was complimenting people that had read it, saying how detailed it was and how it hit home for them specifically, and it wasn't just vague, and it was easy to teach their students. What the meanings. It got the concept right away, like gut punch almost. And so that's what I want to do with the first part of it, and then the second part, I really want to just show people, or different ways of using them, and different synchronicities that have happened that are just too uncanny. Like Jodie Foster has an asteroid named after her, and it's conjunct her sun. I mean, how does that happen? It's just too
Yeah.
bizarre. The astronomer that named that doesn't do astrology and wouldn't even think, let's look up in her chart where it is, because they don't
Right.
even
No.
believe that. It's just so weird. I mean,
It's amazing. Yeah, that's so and so your new book is about just the stories of
those
that
different
sort of thing.
stories, and, the synchronicities, or like I did a whole thing on the Beatles, to show how the different names connect, besides the planets and other connections, but how the names, and even the asteroid Beatles, there's an asteroid Beatles, how that connects.
Wow.
It's too funny.
That's going to be really fascinating. I think that's going to be something people can add on to whatever system of astrology they're using, whatever way in which the lens they look at it. So it's going to be really fascinating because I remember when we had you on I've known you for years too, but having you on the podcast last time, and we were talking about forensic astrology, I was just like looking all through like at all the asteroids in my chart and names and things like that, seeing where they fell. And so that was fascinating. So this is like another sprinkle, another flavoring, if you will. And I love that analogy that you gave too. So is there any one particular asteroid or one particular thing that you would look at for an asteroid to be conjunct your sun, or would you look at it like that? Is that one way to do it, or is it more just looking at
I would look to see just whatever asteroids are conjunct your sun.
okay,
And you can do that with our software, with Sirius, Kepler.
yeah,
You can just pull up the asteroids and see within whatever range you want to use, like 3-degree orb or whatever, see what's conjunct to sun,
mm-hmm.
and then look at the relevant ones out of it and see how amazing it is. It's and your sun, moon, ascendant, of course, the big players. But even your Venus, your 7th house cusp, and even 4th house. The house does matter, and conjunct your midheaven. What career is going to be, or what are you going to be known for? And it sometimes, quite often, gives vocational, guidance or aptitude. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is really amazing. I think this will be really helpful for people that are in.
Yeah, asteroids that are related to astrologers, so that will be of interest to anybody there, like Urania or Astronomia. Those are two that are really big, that are common and used a lot. So, and
Mhm.
it's good because it kind of can give you clues as to what type of astrologer you might want to be even.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense because, it's like in the vibration charts, the person gravitates, and if they're an actor, they act those roles that would be
Mhm.
their strong vibrations or whatnot. So that makes a lot of sense. And with the asteroids too, the same, idea of it,
Right.
what they would be attracted to. So you also mentioned psychic asteroids. Is there a specific
There
psychic
is
asteroid?
quite a few, like Psyche is one even, which is usually linked to clairaudience. But,
Mm.
Psyche is your soul, so there's that too, and soulmate, because it's kind of what you represented with Eros. But yeah, Hecate, I have Hecate on my midheaven, which is giving guidance to people, life direction. She always helped people at the crossroads. She was also a medium, so
Hmm.
that kind of makes sense. Pythia and the Delphic oracles. There's some asteroids named after that, so there's quite a bit. There's about 4 or 5 that are related to psychic development, and there's Astro Wizard for. I mean, that's kind of funny. It works though.
That's interesting. So that would help to show you as the astrologer talking to someone that how the person might be able to, what they might be interested in or want to explore. That's super interesting. Yeah. So at the conference, you're going to be able to kind of show people how to look for them and what they can do with them, and also kind of discuss what might be the idea of what might be the best asteroid or the best way in which to find them. I'm curious, do you feel like there's any one specific, group of asteroids? I know we have the 4 major asteroids, and then we have Chiron. So do you feel like there's, those are like stronger than others, or does it matter in their placement, just in the person's chart?
The 4 majors, I think, are more accepted now as universal for anybody, and I think they could work in any chart, and I think you should use them. And especially like for instance, some people, I ask people if you use Juno in relationship readings. A lot of people, no, I just know, and I'm like, oh, how come? Well, because my other friends that are astrologers don't use it. Okay, so I guess you shouldn't either. It's kind of silly. So once you put it in and I teach classes on synastry, and I really purposely try to, show how important it is. And I ask my students after the class, now should we just ignore Juno? And everybody's like, oh heck no. When you do it in composite charts, and you can see why they're married or how, why they stay together, why they didn't. And you can use Juno, for instance, as an indicator for getting married or indicator for when marriage is going to divorce. Um, just as you would with like Saturn on Venus. Saturn on Juno is going to do pretty much the same thing. Maybe different reason. Maybe Saturn on Venus is the love part's gone, and maybe you can still fix that. But maybe on Juno, it's the whole relationship, the commitment, the marriage itself is, in trouble. So
Mm.
it's and usually though, what I see when I see that, I'll see like Saturn on Venus and Uranus squaring Juno at the same time. I'm like, maybe this is something you need to look at.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I've seen also people when they're getting married, like Venus conjunct Juno or Juno conjunct Venus, or progressed Venus conjuncts their Juno and they're engaged, and so you just can't ignore it once you know it's there and when it really works, and when you see it not just work one time but several times.
Right. It's the seeing it over and over again.
Yeah,
It makes
if
sense
it's
that you have.
consistent, yeah, we're researchers. I'm into research and I'm into like testing, and if anything doesn't work consistently for me, I just can't use it because I want to rely on my predictions, rely on the astrology, and trust the chart. Then you have to trust your method, and you should have done your due diligence and tested the method, and not go on hearsay or, well, so and so says, or so and so doesn't use that because they just don't like it. Okay, well, it might still work. Let's try it. I'm sure you get that. Why do vibrational? Well, you don't know what you don't know until you try it.
Right.
And then once you know it, when you see it, you can't put it back in the box, you know?
You know, one of the things with the Convergence conference is about, bringing different methods, bringing different styles, bringing different ways, different types of astrology. I mean, we have from Vedic to vibrational to traditional to financial, which these are very different astrologies.
Mhm.
But it's like when something works, if you have people who practice it and works, to me, that's all that matters. As long as something works,
Exactly.
and that's really what we want to try. One of the emphasis for the conference is bringing people who these are very skilled in their craft, and they can present that,
Mhm.
and for you to test. I mean, everybody obviously is given to test it out, but see, because hey, if it works, it works. Um, and you've done a lot in this, so I know what you're going to bring, what you're going to be able to talk about. It makes it very useful. I know once I had talked with you before, I started to go back and look at these, and because it was something that you always have to pick. Okay, how much time am I going to spend? Where am I going to do it? And if I haven't really done it before that much, I'm not sure how I'm gonna use this. But one of the things when you have someone like yourself who has done it a lot, you could pick up. Okay, so he does this. This is how he does it. This is where he uses it. Okay, that gives me a little place to go to then. To
Right,
start, and I can start doing that, and I'll do that. And
right.
having such a big family like I do, I can usually test out stuff really quick because
Yeah,
you got a lot of people to work with right there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and when it runs through my family and it works, that's a
Mhm.
pretty good sign,
Right.
you know.
Like, yeah, the kids are getting married. Look at their, charts, their progress charts, their solar arc, and their, you know,
Yep,
vibrational charts for marriage, for the relationship, and see where Juno is and where their
yep,
personal names are.
yeah.
And I think you'll see a lot of interesting.
Fascinating. Yeah. Yeah. And
And
that's all you need to see. And then you're like, okay, I'm
so,
convinced.
yeah, and then you can put it in your toolbox, use it when you need it or when you want to.
Yep.
And that's how I am. My approach to things is like I don't use every asteroid for every reading. I would never get anything done.
Right.
And it wouldn't be. I mean, it's too much information sometimes.
It
Sometimes they
is.
don't need all that. If they just need the very basic, yes, you can take that job. If they don't
Yes.
need who's going to be your boss's name. I mean, they don't
Well,
care.
I agree. That's one of the things with, it being an effective astrologer. It's not just about coming up with information, because you can overload people so much. It's unreal how much you can overload people with information, which great. Now you just filled it to where it's all overflowing and they take away nothing because like it was too much, you know?
Right. And then
Yeah.
I don't know what he said.
Right. Exactly. Oh yeah, it was really good. What did he say? I have no idea, but it was really good. It's like, okay, well,
It's fascinating. Yeah, and I don't want to be that.
yeah,
If I
you
always
got to
use
be
them.
practical.
If I don't use them, sometimes I don't. I don't use them at all in the reading, unless it's just a
If you
formation.
get your answer if they get the answer they need, then that's all you need,
Yeah,
you
and I'm
know?
not going
Yeah.
to waste both people's time by looking up asteroids I don't need to look up. So
I'm sure that that's where the intuitive psychic part of
yes,
yourself comes in too, because you need to know, what is this person here for me? Like you said, you could spend the whole day and week with someone, but talking about their chart, but
right,
they're coming for something and they might not know the question either. So like at least getting a feel for it, and then there's an intuition that comes from the person, the astrologer, to be able to look
right.
at like, okay, this is it. And usually when you get that feeling, you start telling them, that helps them to, oh yes, that's exactly what I needed to hear. So yeah, that's very
Yeah,
interesting.
well, it's something to put in your toolbox, and you can use it. And it's just like different systems of astrology. I mean, I do dial work. I do a lot of eclectic things that other people don't, and I don't do it for every reading, of course not. And sometimes I think I need the dial for this, and it'll work, and it makes sense. It pops right out. Or I think this is the vibrational thing. I need to look, here or whatever, but you have your choices and you have your knowledge. And also, like the asteroids, I always like to say, because they're like, you can use it like in medical a lot.
Hmm.
There's even names of diseases, which is like, you don't even want to look at these because then you think you have everything. But like, how you do a dictionary of medical stuff, you're like, oh, I think I have it. There's like one for Lou Gehrig's disease. I mean, and it runs in our family. So I'm like, do I look? Do I not look? So I looked at my grandma's chart because she did have that ALS. But there's one called Gehrig, which he was named, Lou Gehrig's disease,
Right.
and it is actually worked for that disease. And my grandma had it conjunct her sun. So I mean,
Wow.
hello. So there's lots of different ways of using it, and just so much, and that makes a huge difference because you're not just looking at any kind of disease. You're looking at something very specific.
Specific. Yeah. That's very specific.
In some cases, I'll use it to like describe the suspect, and I'll use astrology, and I'll use different asteroids. That I mean, you can use astrology just in itself, like a Taurus-looking person. So you say the thick neck, or stockier features, things like that. You can use all those or colors that go with the signs, but you can get really specific with asteroids too, and even streets. Or there's an asteroid Levi, and there's asteroid Toyota, and there's asteroid. I mean, so for suspect things or where they're at, One time I was looking for a missing child, and asteroid Underwood came up. And so then I tune in psychically also and go, is this something to look at? And yeah, we found the pile of wood on the property, a big pile of wood. So Underwood, hello.
Wow.
So I mean, it can be used very specifically. And it was that chart, didn't lie.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And so when you're pulling up the asteroid wheel, right, in the Sirius program, do you just, I don't know, how do you know which ones to put in there, or does it select them for you based on how close?
Yeah, no, I usually like for forensic ones, I usually put in a whole bunch of things that would be more of a list, like descriptions of people. Like I can't remember. I think there's one that has something of people wearing glasses, somebody with a mustache,
Mm,
somebody with a long, like Pinocchio could be a long nose or a liar, but you know what I mean? Something prominent about their nose. Oh, you have a Pinocchio nose. Isn't that nice? You don't want that on your ascendant. You might, Anyway, but things like that can add detail to it that you wouldn't otherwise see, and even street names, especially like if I know the vicinity where I'm looking and I know that there's asteroids related to it, I would put those in to see. Like I've done city states that I think would be like, what state is that person in? And I think I know like their history of 2 or 3 states. I'll put those in, or cities related to it. And sometimes the asteroids will like tell me where they are.
wow.
And give me clues to where to look. So there's
Wow.
lots of different ways, and there's very specific, and you couldn't do some of those things without them.
Right. Right. The idea of Underwood, you wouldn't have just, probably thought about that. That's a strong.
And what were the more negative asteroids you found in Starlene's chart? Which ones were they?
There are none. No negative. No negative
Oh, they're there.
asteroids.
Conjunct the sun, tight, 1 degree.
Pluto is the one. Okay, I don't think that's an asteroid though. I'm just kidding. I know it's not, but Pluto is on my sun and my midheaven. So hey, I'll take that. But Pluto's what do they astronomically call it? A small planet or dwarf planet? That's the word. Yeah, but Pluto is not dwarf by any stretch of the means. Like no, no, it's not. I mean, that goes back to your theory of it's a exactly. Yeah. Wow. So you do use these also in transit too, right?
Yeah, sometimes I'll look at if something weird. You can. Oh, actually, like almost any news story, you can pull it up if you get the chart for it or the chart of the people involved and
Mm,
see how the asteroids are playing out. And it'll tell usually the whole story of whatever's going on with their, even just the transits. It'll
wow.
tell the story of, the history of things. So it's kind of amazing um,
Yeah.
when that happens.
That is amazing. And relationships too, and like people that we're connecting with, obviously, where we have some dynamic there, but I mean, relationships and also transits, that's something that's not necessarily just so that's very interesting. I love that. um, so do you, other than doing something like the book or lecturing, teaching, do you teach any particular classes or whatnot on asteroids themselves, or is that just more something you do with your book and speaking engagements and such?
Yeah, I do lecture a lot. I do the four major ones in class, and then I do extra classes like, once you're an advanced astrologer, I'll do, I can do a whole series of them. But I've lectured several times on different asteroids, like some for psychic, some for astrology related, or just a whole bunch of general mythological ones that you could use universally for
Mm,
everybody. Because the myths, we all know the myths, or could adapt to the myths or fit them in our life somewhere. So yeah, like pilots have often Icarus in their chart, which is kind of sad because he crashed, but scares me a little bit. But yeah, it works. Or let's see, what's another one? Like there's an asteroid fireman. I think I've talked about that before, where it shows up in their charts, and I've done like at least 100 firemen's charts with to see if it worked, and it consistently did. And then I would even ask them why they were firemen or what made them want to be. And sometimes the chart would validate it. Like my dad's chart, its asteroid fireman was conjunct his midheaven. So and his dad was the fireman. So that's kind of the father and the career right there, or parental, influence. But a lot of people, like when it was conjunct their son, they just so identified with being a fireman. It was like their core. That's what I want to be, when they were little. And some it was just a job. If it's in the sixth house and you know
yeah.
conjunct, Mercury or something, And often I found it was conjunct Venus, which I was not. That's weird because I would think it would be Mars. But I started asking them why are they firemen, and they loved the job. They loved every aspect of it. They were in love with it, and so I started thinking: is Venus like a career indicator? Could Venus be? Because if it's what we love, and they always say, "Do what you love," well, look at Venus. So could
That's
be.
a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious about what you feel about Chiron, because maybe that's the one I look at the most. Although I do look at the four of them, and like you said, it's not every chart you look at the asteroids. I don't use them as much as I do other things, but it's definitely
Mhm.
a tool. So what is your take on Chiron?
I use Chiron. I do think that so many people just focus only on the wound part, and I do think there's other things that he brings to the table. First of all, he was an astrologer, and he taught astrologer. He was like a major thing with that, and a teacher of math and all the sciences. So he's a mentor, teacher, coach, astrologer, and almost all astrologers have it prominent too. So I think there we go with that. It's one of the astrological indicators. But of course, and it's a healing. I think it shows up in a lot of healers' charts as well. Of course, healers want to heal because they were broken, usually. So we want to heal our own wounds and then heal others, which is the way it should work. So I use it for that too. I mean, I use it to look at the soul or the wound, what they need to heal, what their issues are, and also especially like after 50, if they haven't done it, they're going to have major issues. Chiron and 25 to 25 is where it should be really, starting to heal and move on from parental stuff and And I find at 50 they really have issues, whether it's physical or mental, or just they haven't dealt with anything for 25 more years as an adult, and it's starting to show that it needs to be healed now. And I think that's part of their crisis at 50. Luckily, I worked on my therapy for since I was 25, so 50 was no big deal. Other than I hated the number, but now I'm 50. Gosh dang it! So
So do you in using Chiron? So for me, I tend to lean towards Chiron in a rulership position over Virgo. So I tie Chiron a lot with Virgo. I don't know how you kind of view that, but I definitely. I mean, that's where I kind of see. I mean, I do a dual rulership there,
right.
but I do. You can. It just seems to resonate with a healthy Chiron and a healthy Virgo go just hand in hand really well.
Mhm.
Well, a negative Chiron and a negative Virgo go hand in hand quite well too,
Yeah.
but it seems to fit. Not simply, I mean, well, when you deal with the mentorship, I think you see that in Virgo as well. The healer, again, you see that in Virgo as well. I know, like David is kind of leaned towards that charisma, which I kind of see as well. That there's a gifting that has to come out of a person, but it takes almost like a wounding that you need to have that gifting come out. It's not just, it's a gift that you have to dig for, that it's not just going to easily come. You've got to work for that. Sort of the concept of wisdom. Wisdom doesn't come from an easy life. Wisdom comes from dealing with problems, having to solve the problems and move beyond them. This is how wisdom comes. And I think that is a real heart and essence of Chiron. And I also think that is where Virgo kind of comes in too. Like there's these issues that have to come about to really for that gifting, as it were, for that specialness that's within you to manifest through wisdom. So, I mean, maybe not, but it's what I like to use. So,
No, I think it's fine. I think that's awesome. I'm glad people are using it.
Yeah.
I think it's to me it's equally as important as all the planets. Chiron is like right there. So
It's so small. It's just a little comet. It's a burned out tail comet.
Yeah. It's well, Chiron is also conjunct my Venus by a degree. So
Really? Wow.
yeah. Well, it's also has a conjunction with the sun too, but it's a degree with Venus in Pisces. So yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of things aspecting my Chiron, but I did just go through my Chiron return. So there you go. So, but yeah,
that usually happens around 50, doesn't it, Starlene?
Oh, I mean, what did I just say? I'm still 30.
Yours just came really fast. Huh?
Yeah, mine was because I'm Aquarius or something.
Oh, okay, yeah. A lot of leap years there. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. Very cool. Wow. So this is awesome. I'm so excited to be able to hear you talk about the asteroids and to share the knowledge that you have and learn more about the asteroids and how we can use them. And this will be a great lecture, and it'll be great to see you too at the conference. So
yes, that's the more important thing. It'll be really good just to see you. Oh, this conference place too. You're going to love it. So it's right attached to a mall. There's tons of restaurants right there. Like you never have, like this mall is enormous. Okay. So you get lost in it.
Is it in the mall kind of like, or part of it?
It's attached to the mall. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So you just go out the doors in the hotel. Right there's the mall. Like there's no going outside at all. Yeah. You never have to leave the whole complex there. And literally when we were there, we had to use our phones to get around the mall because it's so massive. You get lost. Yeah. So we'll have fun.
Wow. That will be awesome. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So
me too.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us on the podcast and,
Yes.
sharing your stuff about asteroids. I'm really looking forward to having, the experience all
Mhm.
together. And yeah, so this was great.
Yes. We'll see you there and
Yeah.
much in between.
Yes, definitely. All right. Thanks everyone for
Yes.
watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Bye bye.